Okay, haves and have not fans, this video is going over the top 10 vicious Veronica moments. Now, Veronica Harrington is a trip, when it comes to this show. Originally, Candace was the bad bitch, but Veronica took that title and ran with it. It was very difficult to come up with the top 10 list. I mean, I could possibly do like a top 30 list of vicious Veronica moments and still have room for more. But when I thought about Veronica and what made her the character she is, well, it's hard to say the character she is today since the show ended like 2 years ago, but you know what I mean, what she's really remembered for. Good grief. I know this list is condensed, and I really hope that in the comments section, maybe a few of you will surprise me by mentioning moments, and I'm like, damn, maybe I should have put this on my list. But we're going to start at number 10 and work our way up. So, without further ado, number 10, blackmailing her own son into doing what she wanted to do at the threat of having him arrested over the whole Lizzie, the little Lizzie Castile hit and run. When Wyatt hit little Lizzie, and I believe the black sedan was actually Jeffrey's car. Remember, at the time, Wyatt took the keys to the car and left the rehab center and went to the crack house to get high. And as a result, hit little Lizzie, and the cover-up began. Now remember, this was after Jeffrey had come out to his parents and Veronica wasn't having it. And in order to keep him in line, she orchestrated everything from, cutting off his credit cards, taking his apartment, firing him from his job, basically disowning him completely. And the only way to get his quote-unquote life back was to give up the life that he wanted to live as a gay man and do what his mother wanted. So basically threatening her own son for taking the fall for a crime he didn't do, just so he would quote unquote fall in line. Number 9, Madison's friend, whose name I forgot. I honestly should have looked it up, but he's on screen right now. But basically setting up his possible death. We don't know if this character was killed off or not, but I'm willing to bet that he was killed. But at the time, this was when Justin's brother, I believe his name was Tanner, was introduced into the series. And from there, Veronica got, to work with him. And I think he was like an ex-Marine or something. He got a group of guys to beat up this guy. What was it, Colby or something like that? Colby? This was one of Madison's friends, and I believe this was after he had learned about everything Veronica had put Jeffrey through because he's gay. And in a move that I did not agree with at all. I believe it was a Colby and like 2 or 3 of his friends who trespassed on Veronica's property, got in her pool, butt naked and whatnot, and we're like, yeah, you know what, this is the world we live in now, honey. There are gay people and there's nothing you can do about it. And I think Veronica got her gun, and I know Jeffrey was there. It was Jeffrey, Colby, and like 2 of those guys, and Jeffrey didn't get in the pool himself, but basically he was making a statement, and as a result, Veronica was pissed off. And like I said, you know what, hey, regardless, gay, straight, whatever, you don't do that. That's not cool. Because again, it wasn't your property. You trespassed. And if nothing else, that kind of action, I feel like if you're trying to quote unquote push an agenda on somebody who's not a fan of the lifestyle you live, pulling stunts like that will have the complete opposite effect that you're trying to, get across. If nothing else, you're just going to reinforce the reason why they don't like the kind of person or the people that you associate with. So, do I think Colby got what he deserved? Yeah, it was a little harsh. I wouldn't, have went that far. But when you pull stunts like that, you know what? You gotta deal with the consequences. And remember, like the guys that beat the hell out of him, like they had what do you call them, like spike cleats and whatnot. And as a result, Kobe was like, haha, I've dealt with beatdowns, more like that, because I think he was in the army or something himself at some point. But the thing was, because those shoes and all had like deep cleats in them, while he took the beating, he eventually like kind of bled out and he was dragged out of the house. So it's unknown what happened to him. He probably could have just been left for dead. And that was pretty intense. And remember, Veronica, she was just sitting in there and Tanner was standing next to her just watching this entire beating unfold. So that was pretty wild. Number 8, having Wyatt assaulted in jail by the guy named Toxic. And I think this was after Wyatt had, talked to Jennifer Salison and whatnot to reveal that the Harringtons and his parents had covered up little Lizzie's murder. So Veronica wasn't having that. It's like, no, after everything we did to cover this up, this is what your ass going to get because you made things worse for us. So she orchestrated Wyatt getting sexually assaulted in jail by Toxic. And remember, Jim was like, oh, so you want to go to jail, huh? You keep saying you want to go to jail? Well, let me give you a taste of what jail life is like, son. So he orchestrated an entire scenario where Wyatt was behind bars with somebody that, would quote unquote beat him into shape to the point where he would say, hey, I didn't do anything. Yeah, that's right. You didn't do anything. But then Veronica stepped in and, led to him getting assaulted. Number 7, sending a murderer to beat up her own son. Now, this wasn't a situation where I believe Veronica sent Quincy to beat up Jeffrey because he's gay. This was at a point where, Quincy was looking for Candace and Jeffrey was like the only one who knew where she would be. And because Jeffrey wouldn't give her up, Veronica had Quincy beat the hell out of him. He took out the brass knuckles and beat the hell out of Jeffrey. Simple as that. And to think that she would do this to her own son was pretty jacked up. Veronica's something else. Number 6, setting her own house on fire. This was when I believe the finale title was Enough is Enough. She had just gotten Benny out of jail, went down on him in David's truck, and she got back home. David is in bed. I think, David was like, tomorrow morning, I want to carry you to rehab to get you some help. And then Veronica went upstairs, poured gasoline all around the bed, threw the match down, and then went on the front stoop and just sat down as the house burnt. Holy crap. Veronica set the Harrington mansion on fire and no fucks were given. Number 5, getting Maggie Day killed. Now this was a stroke of genius, even though Maggie had to behave like an idiot for it to work. But remember, Jim had Jim did say that he had the hit called off, but I don't know. Basically, he had a hitman in place inside of Veronica's house, so when she got out of jail and got home, pow pow, she would be killed off. But Veronica used her, indoor cameras and was on an iPad or whatever and saw that there's somebody inside waiting to kill her. So what she did was she orchestrated a way to get revenge on Maggie by saying, Maggie, come by my house. There's some things about Davey you need to know. And instead of going in the house herself, she decided to talk to an officer or something like that. And she's like, oh no, Maggie, it's fine. I'm just talking to this officer. You go in the house now. And she went in the house, or she opened the door, and then the killer shot her and then ran, and then the cop killed him. So she basically avoided a hit on herself by orchestrating a scenario where David's mistress would get killed instead. Damn, that's cold. Number 4. This was retaliation for Justin slapping her in the face, but after pressing charges and having Justin arrested, Veronica got some of her street contacts. She got a guy and, a gang, I guess a gang that he runs with to get, placed in jail and to beat the hell out of Justin and run a train on him. For one thing, Justin was dumb as hell for walking to that end of his cell. He should have just sat on that little bench because he decided to just randomly walk to the other side of the cell where those guys were, because they were in separate cells, but he was in one cell, and then the cell over was where these guys were, and they got a hold of him, and they started wailing on him. Then they dropped his pants, and they all had a turn, and this dude was so shaken that he was scared to death of Veronica Harrington. And that's crazy. It's like, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, but then again, hey, vengeance, when it comes to the Ice Queen, it's like, if you hit Veronica with a level 3, like, not saying physically, but if you do something to Veronica that's like ranked at like a level 3 in terms of foulness, she will hit you back with a level 300. Like, it's not that she will meet you at the level you come at her at, she will exceed that. Hell, if you cut her off in traffic, she'll probably, I don't know, make sure your house gets foreclosed on. It's like, this woman is vengeance personified. It was wild. Number 3, the entire Melissa scenario, because her son was gay, she went out of her way to make sure Jeffrey would carry on the family line by picking out a girl. Remember, she had like a freaking catalog of girls that she felt would be good for Jeffrey to date. And she picked one that was, I guess you could say fertile, and in a scenario where it wouldn't be too hard to manipulate her. Her father needed medicine, and Veronica would pay the medical bills and whatnot, and her mom, and Melissa's mom, was fine with it. It's like, okay, yeah, I can have my daughter marry your gay son and carry on your family line so long as you help my husband, because if I remember correctly, Melissa's parents and Jeffrey's parents were, close friends, but, her father had a good business going, but then he fell ill with like cancer or something, so as a result the business fell apart and all their finances went to keeping him alive. But it got to the point where Veronica just wasn't paying the doctor's bills because Melissa was acting out, and as a result, well, her father passed away, and then she was like upset about it, rightfully so. But keep in mind, Veronica went through all this trouble just to make sure the Harrington name would keep going on. But remember, it wasn't just about Jeffrey having to sacrifice his, wants and being true to himself, but the fact that she would literally work together. I don't know who's worse, Veronica or Melissa's mom. She literally would have this girl sacrifice her own life just to keep her father alive by marrying a gay man and having his child in order to keep the family line going. That's just evil. Number 2. And this would have been number 1, but nobody really died. Well, nobody that was intended to die. I can't remember what exactly the reason for this was. This was either because David backhanded her, or this was because, I said it in another video this now, but I've been recording all day, I forgot. Or when he tried to drown her. But essentially, Veronica was getting revenge on David. She literally had a group of thugs, at least like 15 guys, go over into David's house, guns a-blazing, to kill everybody in there. And she was leading the charge too. But somehow, David and Jeffrey alone were able to kill everybody. So, yeah, Veronica, yet again, because she was wronged, she literally did not give 2 fucks about killing her own son, and I believe at the time ex-husband. I forgot if they were divorced at that time, but the fact that she was willing to just off them all was insane. Holy crap. Number 1, when this woman orchestrated the death of Erica as well as an attempt on David's life by having that one guy strap a bomb to the bottom of Erica's new car, so when she cranked it up, it blew up, killing her instantly and sending David halfway across the yard, putting him in critical condition. That was insane. This woman, people wonder why I say that she's the, biggest Tyler Perry villain of all time. There's no contest. I mean, yeah, you have a bunch of characters who could qualify for the title, but in most cases, the quote-unquote villains of plays and movies are people who have affairs and whatnot. But Veronica was just evil on an entirely separate level that cannot be competed with. So let me know what your thoughts are with my list, and I'll talk to you in the next video.